Irrelevant. That's how number 10 described Nigel Farage this week when discussing his potential involvement in fostering a UK-US relationship. Irrelevant, even though he led a party which gained 4 million votes in our last election. Irrelevant, even though he led one of the biggest political changes our country has seen in decades. And you guessed it, irrelevant, despite him being the first UK politician to have bagged an audience with Donald Trump. To discard him as irrelevant is a huge mistake. In these times of uncertainty and change, we need to use everything we can to help us navigate through these choppy waters and to help us develop relationships with the US. Rather than dismissing Nigel Farage, it's time to see him as very relevant indeed. Theresa May needs to swallow her pride, give Nigel Farage an official role and leverage him in building the next chapter of UK-US relations.
Yes.
You're not speechless.
Do you really believe this, Michelle?
Of course I do. I wrote that intro myself. Like that.
You've been hanging around with him too much. Well, I'm sorry, there are a lot of people in this country who know Donald Trump. Piers Morgan's one. So what, should Theresa May ask Piers Morgan to help broker a relationship? Nigel Farage has no business being involved in conversations between the British government and the American administration. I'm sorry. So
Why not?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Oh, there are loads of people then. Oh, I know a couple of people that know Donald Trump. Let me call them and see if they can help with the conversation.
I know you have a real problem with facts, Ms. Sarpong, but can I
What
just point
facts
out...
got to do with this? I'm looking at
he was
common...
the first non-American to get alongside Donald Trump. Now, the problem with what you're saying is I don't think Mrs May will listen. This is the unfortunate thing.
No, neither do I.
Because there is a kinship, a friendship. They're both kind of self-made men. They both kind of appeal to...
international diplomacy.
Yes, based on his friends.
They're
pen pals.
I don't recall Michelle saying he should be made Foreign Secretary.
No.
All she's saying, if I'm right, is that we should be facilitating some kind of dialogue and using
If I was left
Farage.
to my
They
own
don't have the
devices-
same agenda.
Surely
If
they've
I was
got
left to my own
diplomats.
devices, by the way, I would actually have him in the House of Lords.
Good
Just
God,
yes,
no.
I'll make sure you're seated before I suggest that.
Can you imagine?
But I would actually. But the reason why is because I believe that the second chamber should be reflective of the way that people have been voting. And actually, UKIP has only got 3 people in that chamber, and even then, that was by deflection. It's not by appointment. So for that reason alone, that's why I would have him in there.
That's separate to this.
Yeah, of course.
Can I
He's
just,
got no
can we
business
just
being
wind
involved
back
in that
a bit?
conversation.
So,
You
I mean,
can, Graham.
what are the qualities needed to be a special envoy between the UK and the US?
Well, I guess it depends on how you want the role. So I would think of someone like a Prince Andrew, for example. He was a trade envoy, and that was based on his contacts and things like that. I look at Nigel Farage. I've got a clip of him, actually. Let me allow him to speak for himself for a moment. There's a clip about what his thoughts.
Amazing, isn't it? I mean, can you imagine if we were a business and we were looking at Trump and America as somebody that we thought it was very important to form a close relationship with? What would you do? You'd find somebody that had connections. I do have connections with Trump, more particularly with Trump's team, many of whom I've known for years, and yet the government don't want in any way to talk to me informally or do anything. And it says a lot, actually, about the way we're governed in this country. We are run by people who've never worked in the real world.
You're hired.
You know what that proves to me? I wrote it down
Insanity.
before we came on air.
Go on.
Who does he have at heart? His interests or the UK interests?
His
And
interests.
that says everything I need to know about his agenda.
And maybe that's why, and none of us have pointed this out, he has failed to ever be elected to the House of Commons.
Yeah.
You'd think if he were that much of a representative voice, he would have managed that.
He brought about the biggest political earthquake this country
He
has
did.
seen
Wasn't just
in
him.
Thank you.
generations.
No, but
That's
there was
been done.
sentiment was there already. It wasn't just him.
You
And
would
to be
never
fair, he
have
did it.
had
He
a
did it because he hijacked, because the main parties took on board
You would never
his
have had a
campaign.
referendum without Nigel Farage.
Okay, we'll give him that.
Yeah.
We'll give him that.
But that doesn't mean he's qualified for this role.
He has no
legitimate.
business in this conversation.
It depends what you want the role to be. I don't mean this to be nasty if you're watching, Mr. Farage. I just want you to be a door opener. That's what I want you to open the door so that Mrs May can come in and sit down and break bread
She
with Trump.
is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. She
Yeah.
does not need a door opener.
But
that door's going to be open regardless.
You're kind of arguing against your
Yeah.
running mate.
No, he was arguing at the start.
No,
She was
I
think that is problematic for our view of the special relationship. I do not think somebody who's mates with his silverback gorilla chum just kind of sidling in there. That's not how we conduct international relations. What kind of idea is that?
And also,
it's like politics by gangster.
But you need Nigel Farage is not a gangster.
That's a basket of deplorables there in that picture.
You need somebody that understands. Yeah, look at their cheesy grins.
Is that the pledge for reunion?
You need somebody that understands. Am I seeking to make him the top level of whatever? No. What I'm suggesting is he understands why we are where we are. Nobody else gets it. I'm telling you now. They had that. Do you remember we had a 3-hour debate about whether or not to even ban him? And I understand we had to have that debate, but you were getting Tory MPs that were calling him bonkers, a wazzock. You had all of this. You had an SNP MP who said that even if he was the president, they would still ban him. People don't get him. They don't understand him. Yeah. He does. And if you don't use him in some way, more fool you, quite frankly.
When Barack Obama became president of the United States, we didn't need an intro into him. It was done through the official
change.
Yes, it was. He was the first black president of the United States. What's a bigger change than that?
You two have been saying that this is such a massive, monumental change. We need this crisis meeting because it's such a change. So then I'm saying to you...
But you let the Prime Minister and the President and the Foreign Secretaries deal with that, not some random bloke.
He's not a random bloke.
You're missing a vital point. Mr. Obama was a politician. So he kind of knew his craft. Donald Trump has never been a politician in his life. Nigel Farage actually started as a stockbroker. So they have such... You challenged Michelle about Obama. We didn't need it for Obama. No, because Obama was a politician. But Trump needs friends now. Because he's one... I think perhaps even he's surprised that he got there.
Surely you need somebody who's going to actually represent the views of the government.
Yeah,
and Nigel Farage represents his own views.
I don't think anyone's listened to Michelle. No. She's not saying
I don't want him to be Deputy Prime Minister or anything, by the way.
If it's in his ear, by default, conversations that they have will be along the lines of...
Once you put someone like Farage in some nebulous, undefined position of influence, the problem is, what are the boundaries? How do you then determine... How do you make sure he's just a door opener?
Nigel Farage,
who does he represent and what would his role be? And I just don't think that it's compatible with the kind of accountability and checks and balances of relations between countries to just dump him in there.
I said it many times and I'll say it again. The reason that we're in this situation is because people do not understand, and then they wake up the next day when someone like a Brexit's happened or a Trump's been appointed, they wake up and they are so shocked. They don't know what to do. They don't talk for days on end because they're so shocked. You need people that understand what is going on. Nigel Farage has been fundamental to this. You might think it's irritating. You might disagree with everything he says.
But I want to know what his skills are. I mean, if he's a mascot or literally a door opener, then we've got to see if he's qualified for that.
Can any of you name our ambassador in Washington?
No.
I can. Sir Kim Darrow.
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I'm nothing against him. I'm sure he's a wonderful... Donald Trump won't know who he is. No. Wouldn't have a clue. He could be selling the big issue.
So therefore, any role that Farage had would be pointless.
Did you see that picture of him? Did you see that picture of him with Obama? I think it was of Sir Kim. I'm sure it was him with Obama. Their first picture. I'm sure I've got this in my head right. It was really awkward and for me, I can't stress it enough. Even if you disagree with Nigel Farage's politics, and I get that you do, I can feel that coming in my direction.
No, that's got nothing to do with anything. I'm just saying he is not relevant to this conversation.
I can't wait to see a photo of them having an arm wrestle.
Anyway.